Carlos Brown Jr. has been arrested for the cold-blooded murder of Irna Zarutska after stabbing her for simply being a white woman on a Charlotte, North Carolina train. In the footage, you can see where she slowly realizes her life is now fading away. And for what? While DeCarlos walks around the train full of joy at what he's just done. But he won't be walking around full of joy for long, because once he gets to prison, karma will be catching up to him. I've looked more into his past and his affiliations and his associations and everything about him, probably more than anyone else on the internet right now. And I can tell you with full confidence, as someone who has served 10 years recently in Carolina state prisons, which is where he's going, what I discovered leaves no doubt in my mind that he will get exactly what he gave once behind bars. Metal entering his body. Gang ties, frowned upon charges, deadly enemies, and more. I'll explain everything. Let's get started. First off, and this is kind of the bad news, but trust me, what you do want to hear is coming. Some good news is coming, but let's get this out of the way because I always kind of hit these bullet points when I do these videos. Let's get the basics out of the way. His charges, the only time what he's actually going to prison for, only time that's going to apply and like affect his quality of life from the other inmates, like, you know, we don't like that, we're going to get you, we look down on you for that. Obviously, if that's something involving the harm of children in that way. It's the best way I can put it on YouTube with their new guidelines. So you get what I mean. He doesn't have those charges. He's got a lot of charges. He's got a wide range of charges, and he's done 6 years in prison, if you didn't know. In 2015, he was sentenced to 6 years in North Carolina State Prison. I have researched extensively within those prisons and using good keywords. I know how to find this information, trust me. There's no report of him ever being physically assaulted within that prison during those 6 years. Now, these 6 years will be monumentally important in just a few minutes when we get to that. They are going to be the catalyst for where he's at now. Trust me, just hang tight. But point is, he has no charges in the past that have caused him issues with other inmates. And these new charges, yes, I understand. Regular, normal, sane people will be like, you stabbed an innocent woman for nothing. You are a piece of crap. You are scum. I don't like you. I hate you. You deserve some type of kind of vigilante prison justice. I get that. He's not going to get that for that reason. For that reason. No one's going to go out of their way to attack him because of what he will be in prison for. Murdering an adult woman. And I know TV shows, movies, Netflix, and even other grandiose prison-based creators have sold you this lie that, oh, inmates, they got this code of honor and they really hate when you hurt women. 90% of people in there have beaten the crap out of their baby mama, no matter whether they're in there for that or not. Probably not, but just aside from that, they've beaten the crap out of their baby mama at least once, maybe twice. They don't pay child support. They don't take care of their kids. They don't care about their girl. They've cheated on her 10, 15 times. And 50% of inmates, and you can Google this, if you really want to test me, if you really want to test my knowledge, you can Google this. About 50%, half the inmates in any given prison in any state are known for, I'm just going to call it indecent exposure within prison. They pull out their little winky non consensually whenever any woman, I don't care if you're 26 or 126, and you're a female corrections officer and you come around and you're just doing your little rounds to make sure everything's okay, they pull out their little winky and start pleasuring themselves right there in front of you. And they hold their breath and cross their fingers that you will be okay with that. And a lot are. That's why they have the confidence to do that. But point is, they don't even respect women enough to not literally perform perverted acts right there in front of their face against their will. And then a bunch of them have cheated on their girls. They don't respect them. They've beaten them. They've harmed them. They've punched them. Do you think anyone's gonna, like, we're not grabbing pitchforks and torches to go get the guy who murdered a woman, much less a white woman. When we're talking about prison, it's predominantly black in the Carolinas. That's a fact. So no one really cares what he did. That's just a fact. So he's clear on that. Let's move on to the next point. Equally as important, does he have gang affiliations and gang ties within his community and his local area, his local state, and his local state prisons? I would say he used to. Him doing 6 years in prison, and how much that changed his social status and his relationships with his family, friends, gang members, things like that. It changed a lot. And again, we'll get into that. But to set the stage, I want you to know, if you look close here in his mugshot, every mugshot, he has a Charlotte, mind you, he's from Charlotte. And that's the city he claims on his Facebook that I found. I found 2 Facebooks for him. On both Facebooks, he has close-up photos of him with this neck tattoo right here on his throat, right here on his Adam's apple. And he has a picture of a Charlotte hornet. Now, him being and claiming to be from Charlotte, he's in Mecklenburg County, which has Charlotte is a city within it. He claims Charlotte. Now, him being from there, you may say, oh, he has a Charlotte hornet tattoo on his throat because he's proud to be from the Charlotte area. Well, with people like this, to be honest, it's never that, I'd love for it to be that simple, but it's not. It never is. And as we see here, this is actually from like a government FBI, CIA gang task force informative website. They are letting you know this is just a small snippet that applies to him. This is from a full page of gangs, and as you see here, related images, phrases, and character references that have to do with that gang, Bloods, Crips, etc., etc. I've just zeroed in on this because it applies to Mr. DeMarcus. He has a Charlotte Hornet tattoo. This is affiliated with the Imperial Gangsters, aka IG. And you see similar symbols, Pink Panther. That's because originally the gang colors were pink and black of this gang, and so they went with the Pink Panther. That's why you see pink and black and stuff there. You see pink and black, and then you see Charlotte Hornets. This is a government website giving you this information. Now, we look it up. It says it appears the query is referencing a connection between the almighty Imperial Gangsters Nation and the Charlotte Hornets. A document titled Gang Signs from lps.org, that is a government website, notes that the Imperial Gangsters are associated with the Charlotte Hornets. This reference likely relates to the gang colors or symbols, as the Imperial Gangsters' colors are pink and black, which match the original colors of the Charlotte Hornets. Pablo, I see what you're saying. Maybe a little bit, but That's kind of a stretch. No, it's not. Trust me. There's more. I found his Facebook profiles. There's two of them. In those two, he has many photos of himself, and then he is also tagged in photos from other people who are his close family members and associates. One of these associates is this guy. He goes by the name Black Magic, and interestingly enough, you'll notice the spelling is all off technically for the two words Black Magic. This is gang spelling. For example, black, you see it's just BLAC. Now, if he was a Crip, he would spell it BLACC instead of BLACK. The reason is CK, any word that has the two letters together to where you get a C and a K right beside each other, like black. CK stands for Crip Killer. So no Crip would ever spell their words to where there's a C and a K typed out. They would do BLACC because Crips, they kind of value, as you can imagine, the letter C because that's what the word Crip starts with. It's as stupid as and as simple as that. But so there are not two C's here. So this indicates he is not a Crip. There's just one C, but there is no K. Now, if he was a Blood, there would only be K's. There would be no C's in this name whatsoever because Bloods will always replace every C within a word with a K. Because, C in the gang world stands for Crips. Sorry to give you, I know you're not here for a big rundown and 101 lesson on gang culture. I'm just trying to verify and show you, it's like when you take a test in school, show your work so I know you didn't cheat on your test. I'm showing you my work as to how I've come to these conclusions and why I have this information, which ultimately boils down to what is going to happen to this sick piece of crap in prison, okay? Trust me, it's all irrelevant. Now, Black Magic, BLAC. This is because he is not a Blood, or he wouldn't use a C at all. He is not a Crip, or he would use BLACC. He would replace every K with C. He is what's known as a G. This, if you think of it as a tree stump, the tree stump is Folk Nation. Tree stumps grow into trees and they get branches, limbs, and leaves. Folk Nation grows and they have branches, limbs, and leaves, which are other smaller little branch off sub gangs. Okay. From Folk Nation, which is essentially gangster disciples, you have insane gangster disciples, imperial gangster disciples, Satan's disciples, insane disciples, this and this and this, black disciples, insane black disciples. I mean, the list goes on, but they're all a part of the same tree stump, which is Folk Nation. That's the most simple way I can put it. So there are some core things anyone who has grown from this tree stump follows. And that is why I'm able to get the indicators here that this is who this person is affiliated with at its core. Now, in this picture, you see him wearing black and they're throwing up fours. This is a common thing. There's a popular rapper worldwide, internationally known superstar rapper named DaBaby. He is infamously from Charlotte, North Carolina, just like them. He has a famous line in one of his iconic rap songs talking about how he told some girl that he's having relations with to throw up the fours, throw up the foes. That's what you see them doing here. This is a common thing. This is gang affiliation stuff here. And this is what he's associated with. Now we scroll over this same guy who is his best friend. He is doing this pose, right? I got to hold my mic, but yeah, he's doing this pose. Okay. You notice it's his right hand over the left. Now, again, I don't want to spend an hour explaining gang stuff to you, but people who come from the stump, which is Folk Nation, no matter what branch off or leaf or tree limb you are from that Folk Nation, you always value the right over the left, as opposed to Crips who value the left over the right. Again, not going to get into why. That's just the facts. Google it. You see, this is a common pose related to the Folk Nation. He has his right arm over his left, and he has his two thumbs up like this. This is a common pose. In fact, I was a member of the Folk Nation when I was in prison. That's another story for another time. And I was taught when you enter a cell block, you do not need to go around and be like, hey, who's in my gang? Where are my gang members at? I need to find my gang, because it makes you look weak. You instead need to stand firm and independent. And just when you go out in general population around all the other inmates, you need to stand up against a wall and hit this pose right here. This will indicate to other gang members who are a part of the Folk Nation that you are also one, because you know how to signal and kind of hit that, you're shining your light from the lighthouse. You're activating your sirens that, hey, I'm one of you, y'all, so y'all should come talk to me, and now we'll all mingle, and I'm in your group. That's the pose he's doing. Okay. Swipe over, and this further confirms. Do you see he's wearing an all black t-shirt, but the only graphic design printed on this black t-shirt is pretty much a unfolded picture, a picture of an unfolded black bandana. Again, you can Google all this. The chosen color, Crips love blue, Bloods love red. I think we all, I don't care if you're 7 or 107. I think we all have seen enough movies to know Crips love blue, Bloods love red. This gang loves black. That's their chosen color. He's literally wearing a t-shirt that has a picture of a black bandana on it. Okay. Now, if this isn't enough, here's him again wearing all black, throwing up L's. L's are also deeply rooted in the Folk Nation stump in every branch off version of that gang. It stands for love and loyalty and even more. But it's a common, just as if, us, if you're not in a gang and you're young and you're hip and you're saying goodbye to your buddy, you're like, all right, peace. You're throwing up the peace. All right, peace, man. See ya. Or even wave. This is how those fellow gang members greet and say goodbye. More commonly say goodbye to each other. Like, all right, man, L's, which basically means love. I have love for you. I'm in the gang that you're in. We're both in the same gang. I love you for that. We love each other. It's a little fruity, to be honest, but L's, man, love. That's how they say their goodbyes. And that's how they kind of rep their gang too. So he's throwing up 2 L's. That's what that is. Here again, more of them in black, throwing up more gang signs, throwing up the 4s, throwing up the west side, the part of the town they're from. And then finally, we have here my final piece of evidence. He posts a picture and same picture I just showed you, but pay attention to the caption. It says, Happy G-Day to my cuzzo, which means cousin. And then he tags who he's in this picture with, a fellow gang member. Love you, fool. You know why he calls him fool? It's not because he thinks he's a fool. It's because it starts with an F. And the stump, remember what I told you it's called? Folk Nation. They call each other things that start with an F. They call them fool because fool starts with the letter F, just like Folk Nation. Notice also Happy G-Day. That's not a typo. He didn't mean to say Happy B-Day. Oh, they're not going to say Happy B-Day. They don't like the letter B. They're not Bloods. They're gangster disciples. Again, like I said, all this kind of, I could spend an hour explaining all this stupid little pointless little gang crap to you, but this is what I've learned, unfortunately, over my 10 years in prison. Happy G Day. This is what gangster disciples and people affiliated with Folk Nation say to each other on their birthday. They say Happy G Day to my fool. Clever way of saying Happy G Day, my G, my gangster disciple, my fellow member of Folk Nation. These are the people, all that to say, this is the best friend and closest affiliates and confidants of DeMarcus Jr. Okay, DeMarcus Brown Jr. What does that matter? Who gives a crap? Here's the first and only tagged picture that DeMarcus Brown Jr., the murderer of this poor white woman, has on his Facebook profile. It is dated 2016. We know DeMarcus was sentenced in 2015 to 6 years in prison. So in the next year, 2016, DeMarcus's birthday rolls around, and paying homage to him like any good old wholesome gang member does, they post a picture, an older picture they have that they took together. And you see the caption again. It says, Happy G-Day to my dog, #free Kobe. We don't know why they call him Kobe, but they do. Who knows why any people in the hood call anybody any nickname, but they do. And they tag him. They're giving remembrance to him once he's in prison. After that, no one ever tagged him, mentioned him, or really showed any online presence or affiliation with him again. Why is this important? I say all this to say he has prior and previous gang ties and affiliations. If he's not a full-fledged, full-blown gang member himself, he is heavily tied in with gang members in Charlotte, North Carolina, which will carry over into prison. Normally, let's say he is in a gang. He's in that same gang. We just don't have pictures of him throwing up the same gang signs, and it's not as obvious as his best friend and his cousin, who he's always hanging around, makes it to social media. You know how apparent it is that he is in this gang. DeMarcus doesn't make it that obvious, right? But he is in that gang. He'd be fine in prison because no one cares about his charges. That his charges are not something that violates the rules of that gang to where he would have issues. He would be embraced, and he would honestly have some power. He would be a part of a gang, and yeah, he'd have a force behind him. He'd live life as comfortably as you could in prison, which isn't that comfortable, but you get what I mean. Nobody's coming for his head in there. If he's not in that gang, still, he was born and raised in this Charlotte, Mecklenburg area. His cousins, his brothers, his best friends, they are members of a gang, and sometimes that's all it takes. You don't even have to be a member of a gang. You go in there and be like, oh yeah, am I in your gang? No, but me and my cousin, Johnny McGee, Black Magic, we're Mr. Black Magic, he is. Oh, they get on the phone with Black Magic. Hey, man, you know this guy? Is this your cousin? Yeah, that's my cousin, man. Take care of him, man. That's my cousin. I love him to death, man. Take care of him. Yeah, he's not in the gang, but take care of him. He's real important to me. Do that for me. They will, and he'll be fine. That is how it goes, and that is how it should go for DeMarcus. But guess what? It's not going to. I'm going to tell you why. The short story is, I wholeheartedly believe he had gang ties and affiliations at one point in his life, but he no longer has any of them. And I think it all started in 2015 when he did get sentenced to 6 years in prison. Now, from articles, these are verified medical, diagnoses that are confirmed. He has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and other mental health issues. Obviously, absolutely not excusing what he did because of these mental health things, but this is relevant because I think from what we've seen, that started right around the time that he first got sent to prison. And before, he was very involved in the street life, the gang culture, and very social. And he was hanging out with people and throwing up gang signs, taking pictures, and, living the street life. No schizophrenia. And they also, have confirmed he was a homeless man at the time of this stabbing, brutal stabbing on the victim. He was homeless. You're a homeless man, you're schizophrenic, you got mental health issues. I mean, he has declined rapidly over the years from where he was based off the social media presence that we are able to see and that I was able to find of him. And so I think it really all started with, he was just a career criminal, living the street life, doing what criminals do when they live the street life, getting locked up again and again and again. Sometimes it's something not so serious, sometimes it is. But he met his match in 2015 when he got sentenced to 6 years in prison. Those, I believe, though, based on all the evidence I've showed you, this, I'm not just saying it to say it. I'm not just rambling and going on about nothing. This is all leading to this point. Those 6 years are where we see some social media evidence. And based on my experience, I really have a gut feeling this is where his decline started. I think those 6 years destroyed his mind. I don't know what happened to him during those 6 years. I don't know what his experience was, but it wasn't good. I mean, many inmates go and get hooked on substances like K2 and like mind-altering drugs. I'm not talking about your classic tried and true cocaine and weed, weird stuff that you get in prison, these weird substances and pills and just things to smoke, spice, and just, I've seen people lose their freaking mind back there. And I think in those 6 years, he started to slowly decline, lose his mind. And as he did, he lost more and more street credibility. He lost more and more status within his hood, with amongst his people, his gang members, or his buddies who were gang members, if he wasn't a gang member, who were embracing him, and started to slowly notice over these 6 years, man, he's kind of wee woo, he's kind of losing it, man. And he lost all of that, which explains why he would come home 6 years later. This was 2015. He comes home, 2021? He's homeless for several years now. And that's even more enough time for, you know how it deteriorates a person to be homeless. Again, not making excuses. I'm just giving logic, This timeline adds up. I think someone like him, if you're homeless, brother, it's because you deserve to be, because you have burnt all your bridges and you've probably done people wrong and you've probably done like messed up stuff, and karma has come back to get you. I am not sympathetic because, he's a homeless person. We should, let's excuse what he did. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to put it in perspective here. The timeline adds up. He comes home after those 6 years, and then for a few more years after that, right around the COVID time, which is actually funny enough, right around the time I got out of prison, he declines more and more schizophrenic, more crazy. Then ultimately, he has nobody, no one, to where he's hanging out on the train and sees a attractive young white woman and gets angry. Why do you think he did? Why do you think that made him so angry? Why do you think that flipped a switch in him to become murderous? To just see a normal white woman minding her business, going about her life on the train. This is this slow mental decline and the realization of how fast he's headed to and maybe already hit rock bottom in his own life. He stood up and murdered her and took her life because he was jealous of her life, because he's so disgusted with what his own life has become and how far he's fallen, which you were never that high up there in the first place before you fell, Point is, once he goes to prison, this mental health thing, you're not going to be embraced by a gang. And here's why. There's a term that exists. If you never heard of it, you can Google it. It's called prison politics. It's very similar to just regular politics. When you have several deadly, dangerous, vicious, violent groups of criminals in one small building, it gets to a point where, hey, you know what? We will all just kill each other. We have to figure out some rules, regulations, and guidelines, and even policies, you could call it, to kind of like keep peace and order and prevent that from happening. And as long as everyone abides by that, and we can all agree on what those should be, and everyone sticks to that, we can all get along. And that's usually how it is until you have someone break those. But prison politics are very intricate, just as regular politics, just in America, are. For a gang who would formerly, before he lost his mind and started being crazy and schizophrenic and psychopathic and murderous, before that, for a gang that took him in, whether you are one of us officially or you're just very closely associated with or related to prominent members of this gang, which I'm telling you now that you can be a nobody. I'm not in a gang, but my brother is a member of your gang. That gang will take care of you just on behalf of the fact that your relative is a member. They will do that. Makes sense? It gets to a point where if your mental health deteriorates to the point where his has, you are a liability, you are unpredictable, we cannot rely on you to follow the politics, the policies, the rules, the regulations, and the guidelines. We can't count on that. We will wake up any given morning and you won't overstep some boundary and cross a line and disrespect someone and do something absolutely outrageous. Or like what? Oh, I don't know. Well, just for example, stand up on a freaking train and stab an innocent woman you don't even know in the neck until she dies. Yeah, that type of thing. We can't count on that. And so we cannot embrace you and take you in and kind of treat you as more or less one of us because you may do something that compromises us by association, by affiliation with you, because we are cool with you, because we hang out with you, because we talk to you, because we kind of take you under our wing. If you do the kind of action that you're now known to do, that could put all of our actual gang members in a world of hurt and could cause us to lose our life as a repercussion. Gang members will not take that chance, especially for someone like him. He will have, the point is, he will have nobody. He will have no one. I'm going to try to wrap this video up. It's almost 30 minutes now. I didn't want to ramble this long. I will make a part 2 if you'd like me to. But I don't want to bore you, and I really want to get to the facts, but I really want to thoroughly explain. Like, I'm not just talking out of the side of my freaking neck. This is how I come to these conclusions, and this is why it makes sense. I just want you to understand what I understand. That's why I talk and explain so much, but I'm going to try to wrap it up here. If you'd like a further extensive video in a part 2, I will do that tomorrow. But bottom line, he's alienated through his own actions and his own diagnoses and his own displays of like his deteriorating mental health, his inability to control himself, his impulsiveness to do murderous things. Are these other gang members and other people in prison murderous? Of course. But they do it when they want, on their terms, and they're a good bit more in control. And that's where prison is run by politics. When you have an unhinged person like this who might just lose his freaking mind and go off the deep end and just stab someone for absolutely no reason, you cannot have affiliations with him. And so he essentially has no more protection. You see what I mean? He has no protection. He has no benefit to anyone. He has no money. He can't pay for protection. He can't be extorted. He has no skills. There's nothing he can do. And so therefore what he will most likely do, because of where he is now as a person, as a messed up person, he will likely very easily within the first month or 2 cross a prison politic, a prison respect, a human decency line that other inmates take very seriously within the first 2 or 3 months max in prison, and someone is going to do something to him. That is my full belief. I do believe once he goes to prison, once we hear, oh, so-and-so's been sentenced, I don't care if it's for 3 years, I don't care if it's for 103 years. Once he's sentenced to prison, I guarantee you within 6 months, we will see a national news headline that something has happened to DeMarcus Brown Jr. at the hands of another inmate for something DeMarcus Brown Jr. did to that inmate. He will not survive. That's my assessment. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.